Fear. Fear will make you shriek. Fear will make you weak. Fear. The Scarecrow. I don't know why I decided to do that, but I did. Hello everyone, welcome to Rob's Rogues and the Batman universe, and today we've been taking a look at the Scarecrow. I'm going to keep doing it. This was, again, it came from the Batman animated series line, and we will check the stamp on his back, and of course he is a 1993 figure. He was one of the first villains for the second wave of figures that were released. I think he was right up there with I think Mr. Freeze was toward the end of 1993, and Scarecrow was about midway 1993. So, again, Scarecrow is another villain that I've really kind of grown to like over the years, and again, a lot of that is due to the animated series. And I wish the Scarecrow would have had a little bit more predominant time in the Nolan movies. I know he did in the first one, but I really kind of liked that character in that movie. But we're looking at the animated series. For those of you keeping score at home, this is the second incarnation of the Scarecrow from the animated series line. We get two from the line. We get one from the New Adventures of Batman, where he's wearing the trench coat, and it's got the cloak and has the noose around his neck and kind of the Amish looking hat. I don't have that figure. I would love to get that figure. There's a few that I'm missing from that line, but we'll get into that once we get to that portion of this series. But I think it's a really well sculpted figure. Again, 1993 here. So, we're not looking at, DC-UC style of joints and moving and all that type of stuff. And I know I've kind of glossed over some of the articulation on some of these figures, but they're all generally standard 5 points of articulation: arms, legs, head. Some maybe their head won't turn because of just the type of figure that it is. But everything's generally going to be the same, so I apologize if somebody's wanting me to see me moving the figures all the time. You generally kind of get what this is. But the Scarecrow does have a couple gimmicks going on, and I really do like the gimmick for the Scarecrow. Of course, he comes with a couple accessories. We have his Children of the Corn scythe, I think. And he has, that's what I think about when I see this. And I think it's a really cool accessory to have for the Scarecrow. I think it really works very well. And of course, he has a crow, which I always thought this was really cool. See, I can keep little accessories like this. You think I would, at 20 years, I'd have lost this crow and the scythe. No, I kept them, but I'm missing the big ones. Robin's glider, where are you? So there's the crow. We can put the crow back on Scarecrow, and his arms are just generally in a straight pose, legs move, and I'm just real impressed that, action figures of old, you could really get them in a very good seated position, although it looks like now he's doing push-ups there because the way his arms are, but, he would sit very well if there was a Scarecrow mobile or something like that. He does have a little bit of a different stance than some of the figures, but his feet are posed just right that he's not going to, topple over. So he's kind of like a little bit lunging, which I'm okay with. I don't need him to stand. It's one of those with action figures, if you're going to pre-pose them, at least put them in a pose that allows them to stand on their own. And like I just showed you, you can get Scarecrow in a seated position, and just because of the way his legs are pre-posed doesn't stop him from sitting like a normal action figure of the time would. So he does have this little roller dial, so if anybody knows what this figure is or does, you can guess what his gimmick is. As I punch the crow right off. Of course, you can kind of see it move, so get it in frame so you can see it. So here we go. I think that is really, really pretty cool. 20 years and it still spins, still turns very well, and it goes both ways. And I think it's really cool too that the arm can move. It's not it is a little stiff in spots, but you can move it all the way around. The only thing that really stops it is his collar up here, of his Scarecrow collar. So, yeah, 20 years old, and the figure still does what it's supposed to. And to me, I think that's a sign of a good toy, a good manufacturer. Some toys don't fare very well after you hit the 20 or 30 year mark, and people are like, oh, don't turn it, don't do anything. Of course, this isn't one I'm going to sit here and just constantly turn. He's going to be standing on my shelf and just pretty much looking how he is. But it's nice to be able to go, somebody to pick it up, and I'm not afraid that they're going to break the figure by doing the action features on these figures. So I think Kenner did a really good job making their figures, and this is kind of the whole point I'm doing this. This is what really got me into collecting action figures. And of course, you know, it's Batman and Robin, but Kenner just did such a good job. I wish every company had this, you know, type of, I would say, quality control, but I didn't have issues with my Kenner figures, or when Kenner was doing Star Wars figures or superpower figures with, you know, bent knees or warped legs. I didn't have to boil them in water and then freeze them to get their legs to go straight like so many of our DCUC figures. He came out of the package, all these figures came out of the package, they worked right from day one, and I didn't have to go, oh, well, this leg's bent, because they had them in some wacky pose in the box. I think some of the toy manufacturers could take a hint from what once was to what is now, and just give us good quality stuff. And I'm somebody, I don't do a lot of ACBA. I would like to kind of start, and it's cool to get your figures in, you know, dynamic poses and things like that. But do you really pose them on your shelf like that if you're having them? Generally, they're going to be standing very, you know, just normally. So I don't need a lot of spots where joints are and cuts are. I think that kind of, you know, breaks up the figure. I like just being able to see a normal looking figure. Yes, it'd be great to pose them, but I think there's ways that the companies could allow us to pose them without seeing all these cut lines from where all the joints are. Sorry, that's a little bit of a tangent there. The Scarecrow does have one other feature. I'm going to turn off my overhead light as I stand up here. So I'm going to turn the light off on the camera, and I'm going to close this window, so bear with me. So his other feature, which I think is pretty cool, is, get a flashlight up here, his eyes glow, which I think that is really cool. Let's get zoomed in on the face of the Scarecrow here. Focus, there we go. So I got a little flashlight here. So the Scarecrow's got a couple things going on. He's got the turn for the hand for the scythe, of the, you know, elbow, and you get this nice eerie eye looking thing. So on my shelf, I've got a light that kind of is in the back row, and I make sure the Scarecrow is directly under a light source. So I thought that was a really, really cool feature that they did. And the Dark Side from the Superpowers line also has this same gimmick going on. So very, very cool. I'll return some lights back on to finish out this review. Pardon me as I stand up and do all that. So today we've been taking a look at the Scarecrow, and I've always really liked this figure. Like I said, this is the second incarnation. The first one was more of a, excuse me, of a Scarecrow from the Wizard of Oz with more of the bag head, and it didn't have the hair straw. And those were in the first few episodes of the animated series. And then they kind of went with this look to make him look, you know, really more Scarecrowish and a little more menacing. The only real complaint I would probably give this figure is that, again, with the lack of paint work in and around his mouth, he kind of has the Killer Croc face complex. You know, you have all these nice little gimmicks with the, you know, the elbow moving and the glowing eyes. It would have been nice if they would have painted the mouth. Even giving us yellow teeth, or just putting in some extra little color in there, would have really made this figure really, really, really shine. But Again, 1993. I'm not going to try and compare him to the standards of 2013 and say, oh, they should have done blah, blah, blah. That just wasn't the norm for these type of action figures. Yes, they did do it with some figures, and just not all figures. So I really, really like this Scarecrow, in case you can't tell. And just having this action figure really kind of makes me, like the figure even more. And the animated series did such a good job representing all of these characters. So that's going to do it for me. I know this video was just a little bit longer than the normal animated series video, but I think when you get to a good figure that you really like or that kind of means something to you or just has all these cool gimmicks going on, you kind of want to spend a little bit more time revisiting the figure. So today we're going to take a look at the Scarecrow from the animated series, first line of figures. And as always, this is Rob for Rob's Rogues and the Batman Universe signing off saying we will see you guys next time.